cowards need to keep their mouths shut.
There are two doors here. We need not share the same path.
So now that DLC-free Anti-Paradox is out, I feel like I can finally talk properly about the whole Digimon Story Time Stranger DLC run as a complete package. And honestly, this is one of those situations where the main game is so good that it makes the DLC more disappointing, because the base game, Digimon Story Time Stranger itself, is genuinely magnificent. It is easily one of the best Digimon games I have played in years. It looks great, it feels modern, it has a strong story, it has a really good atmosphere. The Digimon side of it feels exciting again, and the whole game just feels like a proper step forward for the series. That is why this DLC is such a letdown to me, because when I look at all three DLC packs together, I do not see proper expansions. I see short add-ons that never really justify the price, and that is the big problem. The base game feels full, the DLC feels thin. So in this video, I want to talk about all three DLC packs, compare them to the original game, and explain why I absolutely recommend Digimon Story Time Stranger, but I really do not recommend the DLC unless it is bundled in at a discount, because for me, that is the only way the value starts to make sense. When DLC 1 came out, I was already a bit mixed on it. It was not bad, that is the important thing to say first. None of these DLC packs are awful in a broken or unplayable way. That is not really the issue here. The problem is that they feel small, they feel light, and they feel overpriced for what they actually add. DLC 1 felt more like a side bonus than something meaningful. It gave me a little more time with the game, a few extra things to look at, a few extra Digimon to appreciate, but it never felt important. It never felt like it added enough to stand on its own as paid content at that price. Then DLC 2 came out, and that was the point where my patience with this whole DLC setup really started to wear thin. Because by then, the pattern was obvious: short episode, limited content, a few cool Digimon, then it is over. And that is really what all three of these DLC packs feel like when I put them side by side. Not expansions, just small slices. That brings me to DLC 3, Anti-Paradox. Out of the three DLC packs, this is probably the one that made the best first impression on me. The Digimon included here look cool. That part I will give it straight away. Visually, this is probably the strongest of the three DLC packs. It has that immediate appeal where you look at what is being added and think, all right, that actually looks pretty good. And I do think that matters, because part of the appeal of Digimon has always been seeing new forms, new designs, new evolutions, new versions of Digimon that just look powerful and stylish. So I do not want to pretend DLC 3 has nothing going for it. It does. There are cool Digimon here, and for a little while that does help carry it. But once I got past that first impression, I ended up in the exact same place I was with the other DLC packs. It still feels too short. It still feels too slight, and it still does not feel like it earns the asking price. That is the issue I keep coming back to. Not that the DLC is offensively bad, not that it ruins the game. It just feels lazy. And I do not mean lazy in the sense that absolutely nothing was put into it. I mean lazy in the sense that it never feels ambitious. It never feels substantial. It never feels like anyone really pushed to make this post-launch content match the quality of the main game. That is where the disappointment comes from, because the original game sets such a high bar. When I think about Digimon Story Time Stranger as a full game, I think about a game that feels polished, a game that feels confident, a game that feels like real effort went into making Digimon feel important again. It has that feeling of a game that actually wants to stand out, and it does. That is why I keep calling it magnificent, because that is honestly how I see it. The base game is not just good by Digimon standards. It is just a really good game in general. The world is strong, the presentation is strong, the combat and progression feel satisfying, the Digimon themselves feel exciting to collect and build around, and overall it just feels like the kind of game I wanted it to be. So when I go from that into these DLC packs, the drop in quality is impossible for me to ignore. The best way I can describe it is this: the base game feels complete and memorable. The DLC feels like leftovers. That might sound harsh, but that is honestly how it comes across to me after all three packs. Each DLC gives a little bit, but never enough. Each one ends before it feels like it really got going. Each one gives me the feeling that I paid for something that should have either been cheaper or should have had a lot more substance behind it. And when I look at the full run of DLC, that feeling only gets stronger, because taken together, all 3 DLC packs only really add up to around 3 hours of content. That is the part that really kills the value for me. 3 DLC packs, about 3 hours total, and that is just not enough for the money being asked, especially when the original game is strong enough on its own that it deserved much better post-launch support than this. That is why I think the pricing is the main reason these DLCs fall apart, because in that kind of bundle, I can see the appeal at a discount in a complete edition, on sale, rolled together with the base game. Then yes, I think they become much easier to recommend. That is especially true now with the game coming to Nintendo Switch 2, because if this ends up in some kind of discounted bundle or a complete edition where the DLC is packed in at a better overall price, then I think it becomes worth it. That is really the key difference for me. At full price, no. At a discount, maybe. As part of a complete edition, yes, then I can see it. Because then I am not looking at each DLC pack and asking whether that one short episode was worth buying on its own. Then it just becomes extra content attached to an already brilliant game, and that makes it much easier to accept. But on their own, these DLC packs are just not strong enough. DLC 1 felt minor, DLC 2 made the formula feel stale, DLC 3 has the coolest Digimon of the bunch, but it still does not fix the core problem. And the core problem is simple, there is not enough here. So when I compare all 3 DLC packs to the original game, it is not even close. The original game has the quality, the scale, the effort, the substance. The DLC does not. That is why my final opinion is pretty clear. I absolutely recommend Digimon Story Time Stranger. I think it is the best Digimon game made in years. I think it is well worth buying. I think the base game deserves a lot of praise. But I do not recommend the DLC at full price. Not DLC 1, not DLC 2, not DLC 3, not the full set together at normal pricing. The only way I would really say go for it is if it is discounted or bundled into a complete edition where the overall value makes more sense, because that is the frustrating part here. The main game is so good that I wanted the DLC to match it. I wanted proper expansions. I wanted something that felt like it really built on what made the base game special. Instead, what I got was a few short episodes, some cool looking Digimon, and a DLC lineup that feels way too light for the money. So that is where I land on it. Buy the base game, absolutely buy the base game. Digimon Story Time Stranger is magnificent and it deserves that praise, but the DLC, for me, that is a pass unless there is a discount, because this is one of the best Digimon games in years and it deserved better DLC than this. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments. Hit that like and subscribe button and I'll catch you all on the next video.